It is 3 o'clock in the morning on a freezing November night. Inside a high-security corporate network operations center, a single red warning light flashes. Then another. Then 50 at once. On screen after screen, terminal windows vanish, replaced by a pitch-black background stamped with a chilling message. All your files have been stolen and encrypted. Inside the server room, hard drives scream at maximum capacity. In less than 4 minutes, 10,000 servers, backup systems, and domain controllers are paralyzed. Critical databases melt into gibberish. Operations freeze. Across the globe, emergency phone calls shatter the quiet of executive bedrooms. System administrators desperately pull Ethernet cables from walls, but it is already far too late. Every locked computer screen presents the exact same instructions: download a secure browser, enter a secret victim ID, and navigate to an onion address on the dark web. There, a clinical, business-like countdown clock is ticking down from 72 hours. Beside the clock sits a price tag, $40 million in untraceable cryptocurrency. At the bottom of the ransom note sits a stylized, aggressive logo that would soon terrify boardrooms from London to Tokyo. Lockbit. This was not a random glitch or a rogue script written by a bored teenager. This was a synchronized, military-grade digital ambush executed with terrifying corporate efficiency. While corporate executives huddled in panic rooms trying to understand what hit them, an invisible syndicate was already preparing its next strike. The incident response teams had no idea that they were looking at the work of the most prolific, destructive ransomware cartel in human history. A phantom criminal network that was about to turn global extortion into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. To understand how this digital nightmare conquered the underground, we have to go back to September 2019. Deep within encrypted Russian-language dark web forums like XSS and Exploit, a new threat quietly materialized. Initially, cybersecurity researchers dubbed it the ABCD ransomware, named after the primitive file extension it appended to encrypted files. Back then, it was crude. It lacked sophistication. The encryption algorithms were slow, and early victims could sometimes recover their data without paying a single cent. But behind this clumsy code was an anonymous developer who possessed something far more dangerous than technical skill: relentless ambition. This mysterious figure observed the cybercrime underworld and realized that existing ransomware operations were bloated, arrogant, and slow. Cybercriminals were spending weeks trying to compromise single networks, using clumsy manual tools that triggered antivirus alarms within minutes. By early 2020, the ABCD code underwent a radical mutation. The developer re-engineered the malware from the ground up, optimizing every single line of code for pure, unfiltered speed. They christened this new creation Lockbit 1.0. It was designed to do one thing better than any competitor on Earth: infect an entire corporate network and encrypt thousands of workstations before security software could even send an alert. While traditional hackers operated like lone burglars picking a lock, the mind behind Lockbit was building an automated assembly line for global extortion. The shadow war had begun, and the world's cybersecurity defenses were entirely unprepared for what was coming next. By late 2020, Lockbit's mastermind realized that coding the malware was only half the battle. To conquer the world, they needed an army. So, they pioneered a business structure that revolutionized cybercrime: ransomware as a service, or RAS. Instead of launching attacks themselves, Lockbit's core team acted as software developers. They built an elite, automated cloud platform for cybercriminals. Then, they recruited vetted hackers, known as affiliates, to handle the break-ins. The deal was irresistible: affiliates kept 80% of every ransom collected, while Lockbit's developers took a 20% cut. Lockbit created an admin portal that mirrored modern tech startups. Affiliates logged into sleek, web-based dashboards where they could track target companies, launch automated attacks, manage victim negotiation chats, and auto-distribute cryptocurrency payments. It was as user-friendly as Silicon Valley software, but engineered for economic destruction. If an affiliate successfully breached a Fortune 500 company, Lockbit's automated platform immediately generated custom decryption keys, built negotiation chat rooms, and hosted stolen files. The barrier to entry for high-stakes cybercrime dissolved overnight. Skilled hackers from rival gangs defected to Lockbit in droves. Why work for chaotic criminal crews when Lockbit offered guaranteed software uptime, 24/7 technical support, and instant crypto payouts? Lockbit was no longer just a malware strain. It had transformed into the Amazon of the dark web, scaling extortion to an industrial level. In June 2021, rival ransomware gangs like REvil and DarkSide made a fatal mistake. They attacked critical infrastructure like the Colonial Pipeline, drawing massive heat from federal law enforcement and international intelligence agencies. As rival groups panicked and vanished underground, Lockbit saw an opportunity to seize total dominance. They launched Lockbit 2.0, accompanied by a massive, aggressive marketing campaign across dark web forums. Their headlining feature? Pure, terrifying speed. Lockbit released benchmark videos comparing their encryption speeds against every rival gang on the market. While other ransomware took hours to encrypt a domain controller, Lockbit 2.0 used multi-threaded, parallel processing to lock down a 10 GB server in under 4 minutes. By the time an IT administrator noticed a single corrupted file, the entire corporate network was already dead in the water. To make matters worse, Lockbit 2.0 introduced a self-spreading feature. Once inside a single domain, the malware automatically hijacked Active Directory policies, distributing itself to every connected computer on the network like a digital wildfire. It bypassed endpoint detection and response systems by disabling local antivirus software from the inside out. Corporate defense teams were helpless. Firewalls and security monitors were logging events, but the encryption was moving faster than human reaction time. Lockbit had won the speed war, and company after company was forced to pay millions just to regain control of their own computers. Behind this vast criminal enterprise stood a single, incredibly vocal online persona, known only as Lockbit Sup. Operating on forums under this alias, the persona acted as the CEO, public relations manager, and chief provocateur of the syndicate. Unlike traditional cybercriminals who hid in complete silence, Lockbit Sup craved attention. They posted thousands of messages on dark web forums, mocked federal investigators, gave exclusive interviews to tech journalists, and trash-talked rival hacking groups with relentless arrogance. To build brand loyalty, Lockbit Sup launched absurd marketing stunts. They offered a $1,000 reward to anyone who got a permanent tattoo of the Lockbit logo on their body. Dozens of people actually did it, posting photos of their fresh ink on dark web message boards to claim their prize money in Bitcoin. Lockbit Sup offered bounty money for target corporate vulnerabilities, hosted essay writing contests for hackers, and continuously flexed millions of dollars in cryptocurrency balances. They boasted that they were physically located in Russia, completely untouchable, and beyond the reach of Western law enforcement. This overwhelming vanity was carefully calculated. It created an aura of absolute invincibility around the brand. Affiliates believed that Lockbit was too big to fail, too smart to be caught, and far too advanced to be defeated. But this massive ego was also... Lockbit understood that modern companies were getting smarter. Organizations were investing millions in off-site data backups, meaning they could simply wipe their servers and restore their systems without paying a ransom. To defeat this defense, Lockbit perfected a sinister tactic: double extortion. Before encrypting a single file, Lockbit's affiliates spent weeks quietly lurking inside a victim's network. They didn't just look for server keys, they hunted down the company's most sensitive secrets, financial audits, employee social security numbers, customer medical records, proprietary source code, and confidential legal emails. They exfiltrated gigabytes of data to hidden command and control servers. Only then did they detonate the ransomware. When victims proudly announced they had backups and refused to pay, Lockbit unleashed their secret weapon, their dark web leak site. The leak site featured a public, searchable gallery of victim company logos, complete with live countdown clocks. If the victim didn't pay before the timer hit zero, every confidential file, personal record, and trade secret was published online for competitors, news outlets, and regulators to download. Now, companies faced a brutal dilemma. Even if they could rebuild their servers for free, the public leak of their stolen data could bring crippling regulatory fines, catastrophic class action lawsuits, and total reputation destruction. The trap was complete, and payouts skyrocketed into the tens of millions. By mid-2022, Lockbit controlled over 40% of the global ransomware market. But LockBitSup was far from satisfied. In March 2022, they released Lockbit 3.0. Also known as Lockbit Black, featuring re-engineered code borrowed heavily from the infamous Black Matter ransomware gang. With this update came an unprecedented level of audacity that stunned the global cybersecurity community. Lockbit announced the world's first dark web bug bounty program run by a criminal syndicate. They publicly invited security researchers, ethical hackers, and rival cybercriminals to reverse engineer Lockbit 3.0's code. Lockbit promised to pay rewards ranging from $1,000 to $1 million to anyone who could find bugs in their encryption, discover flaws in their dark web infrastructure, or reveal the true identity of LockBitSup. Think about the sheer hubris. A criminal cartel offering $1 million reward to test their own malware security. It was a direct, taunting slap in the face to international law enforcement and intelligence agencies worldwide. Lockbit 3.0 also added customizable ransom notes, automated Tor payment routing, and anti-analysis features that made security software completely blind to its execution. Lockbit was no longer acting like an underground criminal group. They were operating as an untouchable digital superpower. In January 2023, Lockbit's reckless expansion crossed a critical line. Affiliates targeted the UK's Royal Mail, bringing the nation's international postal service to a dead halt. Printouts flooded mail processing centres, printing endless streams of ransom notes instead of shipping labels. Royal Mail was forced to stop all international exports, causing massive logistical chaos across the United Kingdom. Lockbit demanded $80 million. When negotiators refused to pay, Lockbit leaked private chat logs showing their cold, business-like extortion tactics in real time. Months later, Lockbit affiliates breached industrial giant Continental, space contractor services, and even major health systems. In late 2022, an affiliate attacked the hospital for sick children in Toronto, delaying life-saving medical treatments. The hospital attack triggered a massive public relations backlash. LockBitSup scrambled to issue a rare public apology, claiming an rogue affiliate had violated their operational rules, and released a free decryptor key. But the damage was done. By hitting critical infrastructure, hospitals, and government contractors, Lockbit had crossed from being a high-level financial nuisance to a direct threat to national security. In Washington, London, and Hague, task forces were convened. International law enforcement agencies stopped treating Lockbit as mere thieves. They began treating them as a global terrorist threat that needed to be hunted down and dismantled. Just as Lockbit reached the absolute peak of its power, the first major crack in their armor came not from federal agencies, but from inside their own ranks. In September 2022, a devastating internal betrayal rocked the group. A disgruntled software developer who had worked on the Lockbit 3.0 builder got into a bitter dispute with LockBitSup over money and operational control. In retaliation, the rogue developer leaked the entire secret builder code for Lockbit 3.0 onto Twitter and GitHub. Within hours, the crown jewels of Lockbit's technology were available to anyone on the internet for free. Skid dies, rival gangs, and novice hackers downloaded the leak, generating custom versions of Lockbit ransomware for their own private extortions. Suddenly, hundreds of unauthorized attacks were being launched using Lockbit's code, but without paying LockBitSup their 20% royalty fee. The leak created absolute chaos in the cybercrime ecosystem. Security researchers gained complete visibility into how the malware operated under the hood, analyzing every encryption function and evasion technique. LockBitSup tried to downplay the breach on dark web forums, claiming the leak didn't hurt their business. But behind the scenes, Paranoia was taking root. The myth of absolute operational security was shattered, and law enforcement agencies were meticulously analyzing every line of the leaked source code for tiny, human mistakes. While Lockbit dealt with internal leaks, a coalition of international law enforcement agencies was quietly building a massive trap. Codenamed Operation Chronos, this secret initiative was led by the UK's National Crime Agency and the FBI, supported by Europol and police forces across 10 different nations. Instead of just arresting low-level affiliates, Operation Chronos set out to completely destroy Lockbit's global infrastructure. For over 2 years, undercover investigators, forensic accountants, and elite cyber operatives worked in total secrecy. They systematically mapped Lockbit's complex network architecture. They identified 34 physical servers hosted in bulletproof data centers across Europe, the United States, and Asia. These servers hosted everything: the victim leak portals, affiliate management consoles, crypto routing engines, and decryption key storage. Through compromised server nodes and high-level surveillance, federal agents gained stealthy access deep inside Lockbit's internal network. They didn't alert the hackers. They sat silently in the shadows for months, watching Lockbit Sup operate, monitoring affiliate communications, and mapping out the syndicate's financial pipelines. Investigators were downloading internal database backups, identifying victim records, and collecting thousands of private decryption keys. Law enforcement wasn't just tracking the group. They had taken control of Lockbit's entire digital empire from the inside out, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The biggest. On Monday, February 19, 2024, at precisely 10 o'clock UTC, Operation Chronos pulled the trigger. In a coordinated global raid, law enforcement teams seized control of 34 Lockbit servers across 3 continents simultaneously. When Lockbit Sup and their affiliates logged on to their dark web leak site that morning, they were greeted by a shocking sight. The familiar red and black extortion portal was completely gone. In its place was an official law enforcement seizure banner, complete with the seals of the FBI, NCA, and Europol. In a brilliant twist of psychological warfare, the police didn't just take the site offline. They hijacked Lockbit's own public blog and turned it against them. The NCA posted a daily countdown schedule on Lockbit's own domain, promising to expose Lockbit's internal data, identity leaks, and source code leaks every single day at noon. Law enforcement gained control of the master admin panel. They seized over 2,000 Bitcoin wallets, froze millions in criminal assets, and obtained over 1,000 double extortion decryption keys stored on the back-end servers. Agents immediately built a free decryption tool, allowing hundreds of victim companies worldwide to restore their encrypted files without paying a single cent. In a single morning, the world's most feared cybercrime syndicate had been hacked, publicly humiliated, and stripped of its entire technological infrastructure. The final blow came in May 2024, when the US Department of Justice, alongside the UK and Australian authorities, dropped an explosive announcement that shattered Lockbit Sup's remaining credibility. They officially revealed the real identity of Lockbit Sup to the entire world. Dmitry Yurievich Koroshev, a 34-year-old Russian national living in Voronezh. Law enforcement published his photos, passport details, personal physical address, and photos of his luxury vehicles. The untouchable mastermind was exposed as an ordinary man who had made tens of millions of dollars at the expense of hospitals, schools, and businesses worldwide. The U.S. State Department immediately announced a $10 million reward for information leading to his arrest or conviction. Detailed indictments revealed that Koroshev had personally pocketed over $100 million in Bitcoin from the operation. Furthermore, law enforcement revealed that Lockbit had lied to their own affiliates and victims for years. Even when companies paid millions in ransom, Lockbit had systematically kept copies of the stolen data on backup servers instead of deleting it. Lockbit Sup's reputation in the cybercrime underground was instantly destroyed. Affiliates realized that their leader was exposed, their private chats were in federal hands, and their payout structures were completely compromised. The criminal trust that sustained Lockbit was burnt to ashes. In the weeks following the takedown, a desperate Lockbit Sup tried to rebuild. they launched crude new onion sites, claiming that law enforcement had only exploited a single PHP vulnerability and that Lockbit 4.0 was already in development. But the cybercrime community wasn't buying it anymore. No serious affiliate was willing to risk using a platform controlled by a man whose real name, face, and digital infrastructure were completely compromised by the FBI. The brand was toxic. Lockbit's market share collapsed overnight. The cartel that once controlled nearly half of the global ransomware trade was reduced to a paranoid, fragmented shell of its former self. Koroshev remains trapped inside Russia, unable to travel abroad without facing immediate arrest and extradition to a Western federal prison. Operation Kronos proved that the myth of dark web invincibility is a total illusion. No matter how advanced the code, no matter how clever the operational security, human greed always leaves a trail. Yet, as Lockbit falls, the vacuum left behind is already being filled by younger, faster, and even more chaotic threat groups. The fall of Lockbit was a monumental victory for global law enforcement, but in the relentless world of cyber warfare, it was just one battle in an endless, evolving war fought in the shadows of the code.